And?
Yeah, we're going to talk Ford very soon, aren't we?
Right now, in fact.
Do you want to do it now?
Everyone's in place.
Is Sean Farrington there from Wake Up to Money?
We're here, Nicky. We're ready.
All right, OK. But they have promised to cover the cost of faulty engines after this investigation by BBC's Inside Out. Headache for Ford, but a lot of headaches for Ford drivers.
Yes, well, particularly we're talking about these 1 litre EcoBoost engines. Our colleagues at Inside Out have been speaking to many customers who've been affected like this. Lots of owners say their cars have suffered total engine failure. People have had to pay out thousands of pounds for repairs, even though the vehicles were relatively new. So if the engines go wrong, that's clearly a big deal. Ford now says it will cover all costs. We'll look back at older cases as well to do with this specific engine. We spoke a bit earlier to Louise O'Riordan, who had problems with her engine and also some issues dealing with Ford as well.
I feel that Ford need to do a whole lot more. Customers have spent weeks and weeks and weeks feeling undervalued, living stressfully, having to live without a car, which is a main staple of any family. They need to apologise to people. They need to acknowledge that there is, there's somewhat a safety issue with that car failing like that. So I think, they actually need to recall these vehicles and compensate customers.
We've got Andy Barratt with us, who is the Managing Director of Ford in the UK. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
When you hear Louise say there about how she feels about how Ford should react to this now, I mean, do you apologise to customers who have had to go through, like Louise had to, taking a car with no engine across 4 lanes of a busy motorway?
Well, I think before we get to that point, I'd like to clarify the history of this issue and what's exactly happened and how many vehicles are affected. We identified a number of vehicles built, and it's only Ford Focus with a 1 litre engine built before October 2013. And we identified 44,000 vehicles that were affected. So we communicated to customers and owners immediately that we identified the issue with a notice to come to their dealer to get it repaired. So it was preventative repair. 96% of all those affected vehicles were repaired. And the vehicles that we're dealing with today, where this issue is happening, is where either a prior owner failed to go to the dealer, or it was sold and that history was never picked up. Clearly, we don't want anyone's car to fail, because our job is about moving people and keeping Britain moving. That's what we do. That's why we sell motor vehicles in the UK. So clearly, that's an issue for us. Louise mentioned there a safety recall. This is not a safety recall, and safety recalls are governed by the DVSA, which is a government agency.
But when you hear, just going back to that point then, of the customer and how people have actually had to experience these problems with their engines, I mean, do you apologise to people who have had to go through taking a failed engine over 4 lanes of a motorway and then had to shell out thousands of pounds themselves to get that problem resolved before you decided you would cover all of the costs?
Well, I think, first of all, the engine doesn't fail immediately. There is warnings that the car is overheating, because the component that has failed is a small hose that connects the engine to a coolant tank.
It does sound like there isn't a lot of sympathy here.
No,
for
there is.
drivers.
Look, please, there is lots of sympathy, and of those people that have had failures, we have contributed 100% to many of those. That strategy changed as the vehicles got older, and we've listened to customer feedback, and we've changed the policy.
Why is it not the initial policy? Why isn't it?
It was the initial policy
to refund everybody.
In many cases, where these vehicles, if they'd been to the Ford dealer, we would have picked up the issue. Not necessarily if they hadn't come in for the recall notice, but in regular servicing, because at the point we issued the notice, we inform every diagnostic system that we have that if a vehicle comes in without the notice, we pick up automatically that this repair is required. Okay. So many of these vehicles not been near a dealer at all and had no servicing at all. Now, cars today are very sophisticated and require huge amounts of maintenance.
So that's the problem with the engine.
It does seem, I'm so sorry, Sean, very rude to interrupt. It does seem to me that you keep putting the onus and the responsibility on the owner. You want to read through some of our texts and tweets this morning. People are absolutely furious with Ford. Now, whether you like it or not, they regard you as not having taken responsibility for this. Let me read one, just so you get an idea. Ford need to make customers feel valued and safe. These cars need to be recalled and fixed properly with no excuses. Customers should receive a full apology and financial redress to those affected. We've a year's finance left on a car that's sitting on a forecourt, unable to move. The car is worthless. Who would even buy it off us if repaired? Ford have been nothing but obstructive throughout this whole episode. Some poor folk have been through 3-4 engines on these cars. They have a design fault. They're not fit for purpose. What do Ford mean by reasonable repair costs? What about the 3 months we've been without a car? The stress involved. Don't let him off the hook, it says.
Well, we are very sympathetic to customers because, as I said, our job is to keep people moving. And what we have done is we've worked with customers where they've had this instance to get the vehicle into a dealer to get their car back on to the road as quickly as we can. Now, clearly, we've listened to the feedback. We are paying 100%, and those customers that haven't had 100% of the repair costs, they can just contact us and we will rectify that now. Our job is to keep people moving.
It may be. We've got an example here. Colin Shepherd is another person who had a problem. He got in touch with Ford, and here's actually a little bit of his call with customer services.
I'm sorry, but it is Ford's policy that we're unable to put that information in writing.
If I've got to pay a bill, I'm entitled to anything in writing.
As I say, it's Ford's policy that I'm unable to put that in writing to you.
No, it's not. That's utter nonsense.
Something like that, Andy Barratt, where you hear people having a frustration with your customer service centre having already gone through an issue with the engine. What do you say to that?
I acknowledge we could have done a much better job at looking after customers, and that's disappointing. We're here now trying to rectify that, move forward and fix these issues.
Will there be new ways of handling things in the future? Because you've still got your EcoBoost engine. We're talking about the 1 litre. There's a 1.6 litre EcoBoost engine that there was a recall put in this year on that. We've seen in other places around the world where you've reacted a little bit quicker. Do you think in the UK there's maybe a little bit of a problem with how you're reacting to problems that your customers face?
Far from it, and they are completely different. They may be called EcoBoost, but that's the name we give to our family of petrol engines. The 1.6 EcoBoost is a 4-cylinder 1.6 litre engine. The vehicle we're talking about so far is a 3-cylinder 1 litre engine. They're completely different. And where we've experienced issues elsewhere in the world with that 1.6 engine, we've reacted. We clearly reacted here when we've seen an instance that gave us a degree of concern. Why wasn't it the same? Well, we may have the same architecture, but they run different emissions, different fuels, different energy management systems and different driving conditions. We can only react when we see the condition that may have given us concern. And then we have to apply to the government agency, the DVSA, to allow us to conduct a safety recall. And they need to be satisfied that it's a genuine safety issue.
Do you think drivers around the UK feel as confident as they did about driving a Ford car with an EcoBoost engine?
Well, they should do, but if they have any concerns, and the 1 litre EcoBoost is pre-October 2013, if they're concerned, contact their Ford dealer today and we'll inspect the vehicle.
Can I just ask you a question while we've got you? We're talking lots of Conservative Party conference, Brexit conversations going on. The way the conversations are going there, do you feel confident that a deal will be done that will be good for Ford in the UK?
I think it's a whole manufacturing sector, the whole automotive sector that is key. We all need the same things. Frictionless trade is absolutely paramount. If you have a manufacturing facility in the UK, it's run on a just-in-time basis, and any delays at customs, at ports, can cost millions in downtime in a plant. And we need that to be a low-cost, efficient manufacturing organisation.
There's no guarantee that that will be in place come next March, April. So are you making changes now to sort of mitigate any potential problem?
We have every level of scenario planning in place.
What kind of... So for no deal, what are you doing?
I think it's, we're not going to go into that now. I don't think it's appropriate.
Why is it not appropriate? Wouldn't it not be better for the government to know, for the British, for other parts of your industry, your suppliers, for customers to know what businesses in the UK are doing to handle whatever scenario might...
Those conversations are taking place at the appropriate levels, but not for public record at this point.
But do you think that's something we may well hear before any final decision on no deal or checkers is done?
I think there'll be a lot more to come out around the manufacturing sector. I mean, for Ford, everything we manufacture here is exported. Everything we sell here is imported. So it's absolutely paramount to a company like Ford.
Just one part of that is there potential for some sort of stockpiling where you might want to get more of your parts in the UK beforehand in warehouses here, rather than just waiting for that just on time around Brexit?
Well, we have some unique supply chain at Ford, so it will affect every manufacturer differently.
Okay, thank you. Andy Barratt, who's the Managing Director Ford in the UK there. It will be interesting to see, you know, we saw when we talked about completely different issue with Volkswagen, for example, and the way that customers' habits didn't actually change on the back of Volkswagen and emissions. Will customer habits change with Ford and those particular EcoBoost engines, or will they feel satisfied?
The reactions coming through are quite interesting. We'll come to some of those in a moment or two.
Are they interesting?
Yeah, they are interesting.
Oh,
They are strongly expressed.
There would be. Coming up, we are going to be hearing from